threads? Were they still there?
Gone, completely disappeared, everything.
Oh, my.
And then the spirit is a breathtaking part of the chapter. It's called the Bride of Corinth.
Yes.
This little veiled spirit comes walking out of the cabinet. And Colonel Olcott had a Fairmount scale set up. This is where you could step up onto the scale, a platform scale.
Yes.
He has this spirit, a little veiled spirit, and there's an actual drawing by the illustrator, Alfred Capes, in my book, who drew the actual picture of the spirit standing on the scale. But she looks like a little ghostly little bride. She has the veil all the way down almost to the floor. Can you imagine seeing that right in front of you?
No.
Colonel Olcott says, can the reader imagine my feelings as I sat there in the room in the dark, not more than 1.5 feet from a speechless and veiled figure, a supposed visitor from the other world who had gathered unto herself an evanescent corporal body, of which my scales could now take cognizance, and the next moment would be dissipated into a vapor. So after that seance,
weighed, though, right? She was
went
weighed
into the cabinet, and Mrs. Compton, there she was sitting, thread intact, no pulse, as if she was dead, gone.
Yeah, right.
She was as cold and lifeless as a corpse, and she was sweating. No pulse was detected. And then after about 5 minutes, she came back. But they just dematerialized her. I've never heard of it. It's incredible.
I had never heard of it before. That's why I wanted you to talk about it. I mean, well, they also weighed that spirit, and she weighed very little. I don't know, like 70 pounds or something. And after she came back, they weighed the medium. She weighed 100 some odd pounds. So there was
and one of the spirit an Indian came out who was like 6'3" or 6'4". Mrs. Compton was like 5 foot, like 5'5" or something.
Yes.
How do you explain that? You know,
no, it's
critics and debunkers, they're missing out, and people that want to be, they won't believe. Some people will not believe anything. So my attitude is, you're missing out on some of the great wonder stories of life. That's how I look at it. That Direct voice is essentially almost an independent voice coming from the thin air. The word direct voice is usually associated with a light metal megaphone called a trumpet in spiritualist terms. For some reason, some spirits want and need this little megaphone, which can be levitated in the air and float around the room, and the trumpet acts like a little cabinet, and it also magnifies the voice.
Right.
But in ways that we can understand, the spirits try to explain it, but it's almost impossible. Independent voice, on the other hand, is where the voices speak right out of the thin air. To me, it's the highest form there is. So direct voice is basically independent voice with a trumpet. Independent voice is no megaphone, right out of the thin air. It's truly astonishing. I've witnessed it myself. My wife has witnessed it on hundreds of occasions in Seattle with a physical medium David LeBaron. It's astonishing to have a spirit talking to you out of thin air.
Let's talk about Leslie Flint, because he's very accessible to anybody who's listening to us. There's a website which has a whole lot of his recordings. Some are very famous people, and you'll find analyses saying, "Oh, here's this guy before he died talking. Here's the voice after he died." It isn't exactly the same. Well, think about this. There's no more body. There's no more voice box to produce the voice that the fellow had when he was alive. So if it's even any voice at all, that's amazing. And if it sounds somewhat like the voice of the person who has died, that is almost unbelievable that they can customize whatever they're using to produce the sounds to that extent. And in 1960, Thomas Jefferson spoke through Leslie Flint. I think he was bored. I was 14, and apparently he was guiding me even then. But I was curious to hear what he had sounded like. I listened to that recording, and with the first few words, I had literally goosebumps because it was the same. I remembered the voice. I had known him when he was Jefferson. It was the same voice. Now, maybe not quite the same voice. You could quibble, I suppose, but it was the same voice. And the fact that the dead can do that to that extent is, to me, beyond amazing and wonderful. So these people are rare, but if you have the chance to go and sit with a direct voice medium, don't hesitate. What were you going to say?
Well, Leslie Flint, the late medium Colin Fry, who I mentioned his name earlier, the internationally famous medium Colin, was a good friend of mine. I went to see him in England, and he took me to Leslie Flint's house. This was after Leslie had passed, and I myself have probably almost 70 seance tapes of Leslie Flint. Leslie Flint was one of the last great independent voice mediums where not only were the voices speaking independently right out of thin air, but they identified themselves. Here is the combination of physical mediumship with evidence. Physical mediumship without evidence is just physical phenomena. You have to have evidence. You have to have the people identifying themselves and saying, "This is so-and-so, your grandmother." Leslie Flint, the voices were all different. They all identified themselves. He had Oscar Wilde. He had Gandhi. He had Garrett Anderson. He had numerous people come through. And he had one of the most lively guides, Mickey, in all of spiritualist history. And I have numerous tapes. I have a tape of Leslie Flint where the voice changes right during the conversation from a male to a female.
Oh, gee.
It's truly astonishing. Yes, Leslie Flint was one of the last great mediums. And he's very accessible. You can find his tapes online. They're astonishing.
They are astonishing. Just never forget the fact. Now, I'm told that there was this was done in normal light, apparently, but that there was some kind of a voice box that was made in thin air, and then the spirit would modify it.
Leslie Flint sat in the dark.
He sat in the dark?
Yeah,
okay.
The voice box was literally constructed by the spirit chemist. Voice box just means that they form a psychic structure that lowers the density of the vibrations. The spirit's in a higher vibration after leaving the physical body.
Yes.
They bring the spirit into this field, this energy field, and because the vibrations are lower in this field, the spirit can once again feel his vocal cords, his larynx, his throat. That's how they speak. Their vibrations are lowered in this force field.
Yes,
the medium gives off this energy, and then the sitters that are there also add to it. The spirit chemists then create an atmosphere, a psychic atmosphere that the spirit has to enter. Some spirits are more inclined to be able to speak than others. Some have great difficulty, but some don't. Some are natural at it right off the bat. It's truly marvelous.
Riley, tell us, I just have to say personally, I've read now a number of the books that Riley has produced, and they're all wonderful. They're easy to read. They're not too long. And as I say, they've even got footnotes. So I highly recommend them. If people are interested in your books, where will they find them?
There's the French Revelation about the medium. The first 3 books are about women mediums. Emily French, The second book is about the Bang sisters, spirit precipitation mediums. The third book is about Elizabeth Blake, direct voice medium.
Yes, we talked about that.
Books are available by White Crow Books. You can find my books. If you just put in N. Riley Heagerty.
Heagerty.
Right. Just go to the search window in ABE Books, Amazon, Book Finder. You can go to Lulu Books, also Barnes & Noble. You can go to therisenbooks.com. But there's 5 books right now, and one more coming. So,
well,
I also have a Facebook page. And the Facebook page, the address is simply The Books of N. Riley Heagerty. Just go to that, and you'll see the Facebook page.
Okay, and is that a way they can contact you, or how do they contact you?
They can email me at nrileyh@hotmail.com. That's NRILEYH@hotmail.com. Or they can contact me through the Facebook page. And the Facebook page, once again, is simply The Books of N. Riley Heagerty.
Well, when we talk with Riley next, we're going to talk about his first book, and I'm looking forward to reading it. To tell you the truth, I can't afford to. I don't have the time to read what I'm not going to be talking about on air, and so you have to come back so I can read this book. It's my next on the list. So thank you so much for being with us, Riley. I always so much enjoy hearing you. You have such conviction and such knowledge. So thank you for being with us. Consider yourself hugged.
Oh, same to you. And we'll talk soon and stay in touch.
Of course. This has been Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. I'm so glad you could be with us today. Please never forget that you are a powerful, eternal being. You never began and you never will end. And when you really get all the implications of that, it's going to change everything in your life for the better. Next week, our guest will be Carla Wills Brandon. Her year 2000 book, When Last Hug Before I Go, was about deathbed visions, and I consider it to be a worthy successor to Sir William Barrett's 1926 masterpiece that coined the term deathbed visions. Many others have done great work in the field of afterlife research, but Carla's efforts kind of remain seminal. She's a clinical psychologist. She's written a dozen books in this field, including A Glimpse of Heaven, the remarkable world of spiritually transformative experiences. You're really going to enjoy Carla's wit and wisdom, so please join us next week. And this week we've been talking with N. Riley Heagerty. He's becoming our Seek Reality expert on the extraordinary efforts that the elevated beings we used to think were dead, of course they're not, were making a century ago to try to prove their ongoing survival. This field seems very obscure to us now, but it's about to become immensely important, and thanks to Riley's terrific compilations of some of these amazing efforts, it's going to be something which people are able easily to access again. He's doing wonderful work. We've been talking about spectral evidence, mind-blowing wonders within the heyday of historic spiritualism. We only got through part of book 1. There's a book 2, and we'll be talking about that with him later. These books are really as entertaining as watching a great movie with popcorn in your hand, and they're so comprehensive. We're going to save that second volume for a later Seek Reality episode. We're going to go back and talk about his first book, and we're going to, I think, be able to dig deeper. We had only time to skim the surface here if we occasionally bring Riley back with us. He's doing a great service to the world. People don't understand that yet, but they will. It's going to be, frankly, the ultimate way we come to understand that our own minds really are eternal. As you know, I have a variety of books, including Liberating Jesus, all the fun books, My Thomas, and some books for children, too. The Fun of Loving Jesus will be out in the fall. And you can order all my books through bookstores or on Amazon.com. The adult books are available as audiobooks. Of course, if you want to talk about any of my books or anything at all, you can contact me through the contact block on RobertaGrimes.com. I do answer every email provided to give me the right address. Meanwhile, this has been Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Please understand how precious you are to me and how much I enjoy hearing from you, talking with you this way, bringing to you information which I'm not sure you could get in any other way. So thank you for spending this time with me today. And now, please enjoy and make the most of this coming week in our One Reality. never forgetting, always knowing that you are a powerful, eternal being. And you in particular